Welcome back, boys and girls, to another episode of
WeRGeek. I'm Josiah Swanson.
And I'm Ben Hendrian.
And
what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about stuff like normal. So, today we're going to give a shout out to Geeks and Gamers, the great Facebook group that we're a part of. If you are not part of that and you consider yourself a total nerd, a total geek, join the group. We have some great discussions, great all around topics. We are pretty clean, usually PG to PG-13 at the highest. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to join.
Yep, we're both admins on Geeks and Gamers. We both love the group. The members are awesome. Jeremy, the boss, the big man, the emperor, he is awesome. He is Emperor Jeremy. Emperor Jeremy. We will rule the galaxy.
We will rule the galaxy. Our team of admins rules the
galaxy. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, check out Geeks and Gamers, and this is not a paid tribute.
No, we
did this from the bottom of our heart.
We will put the link to the group in the bottom of the description for you.
Good idea.
So you can check it out. Okay, everybody, we're going to talk about superheroes today. So, Josiah, what is the superhero subject?
The superhero subject we're going to be talking about today is the superhero genre oversaturated in movies? And I say no!
And I say yes. So,
wow.
We both have we have totally opposing views.
Here we go. Let's get into it. I am going to tear you apart. No.
He is going to this is like the presidential debate, but better.
Okay, so people have said for a long time that the Western genre is oversaturated, which I do not believe. I believe that a lot of the movies in the Western genre are very similar, which makes people think that way. But I also say the same thing about superhero movies. I think that a lot of superhero movies tend to have a lot of the same storylines, but it doesn't have to be that way, which is why we have the Dark Knight trilogy, we have Winter Soldier, we have Guardians of the Galaxy, we have Ant-Man. All six of those movies are totally different from each other in lots of ways.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
They are in a way, but that doesn't take away from them just hammering us upon the head with superhero movie after superhero movie after superhero movie. I know some people out. I'm not saying I don't love them all. I really do. I like pretty much every superhero movie out there except for Iron Man 2. Can't stand that movie. But
I agree. Yeah.
There's a lot of good movies. Mm-hmm. When I first started noticing it was actually with Avengers: Age of Ultron. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. But it wasn't as strong as a lot of the other superhero movies. Storytelling-wise, anything, it seemed like it kind of lacked because they tried to spend too much time with the action and everything else that they didn't bring a full-out story. Yes, they had the bonding of the characters and how they've slowly grown to work as a team, and I did like that aspect. Even Ultron was a good villain, but I mean, in my opinion, Loki's still better. But yes, the over amount of action compared to the other ones, I didn't like that as much.
But 2 months later, we had Ant-Man come out.
We did, and that is what made me waver. It's like, oh well, this is different. I kind of like this. I did like Ant-Man a lot. It's one of my favorite superhero movies. It beat Age of Ultron by far for me, just because the heist feel to it, the comedy feel to it. I really enjoyed that. But even with that movie, I don't consider it one of them because it didn't seem like a superhero movie to me.
But it still is a superhero movie.
It is, but it didn't feel like one.
Yeah, and that's the best kind of superhero movie.
That is, and that's why Age of Ultron not exactly upset me, but that's why I felt that way about it because it just seemed like another superhero movie. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Whereas we have one every year that doesn't really seem like a superhero movie. We had Guardians of the Galaxy. Actually, we had two last year: Guardians of the Galaxy and Winter Soldier, and then we had Ant-Man this year. Those three are kind of the separated out, but every other one really just kind of seems like a superhero movie to me. They have a very superhero feel. Mm-hmm. But I'm not exactly going to say yes, it's entirely oversaturated. That probably was a little bit drastic. But is it, if they keep going in the way of having too much action, not spending enough time on story, then it will become oversaturated.
Yeah. But I think they're starting to realize that. Especially Marvel and DC. DC, that's why they have Suicide Squad coming out. Totally different than any comic book movie, superhero movie that's come out yet. because it's told from more of the dark villain
perspective. And I like that because
Me too.
DC is starting off not exactly the same way Marvel did. They're starting off with diversity right from the beginning, from the get-go.
And that's great.
Which I like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why I think, Marvel, that's why I think they're starting to realize that too, which is why we got Winter Soldier and we got Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Because all three of those movies are really, they don't feel like superhero movies at all.
No.
Guardians of the Galaxy feels more like a Star Wars
Indiana Jones type
movie.
Yeah.
And Ant-Man's a heist movie.
Ant-Man's a heist movie. Winter Soldier is like a political
thriller.
Yeah, political
thriller. That's great. I think that when you can take stories from like superheroes and put them with other genres and stuff, it's awesome.
It is.
Yeah.
And I really did like those three movies. That is why they're at the top of my list for superhero films. But I'm not terrified to watch Civil War, but I am a little bit worried because there are so many characters. It's going to be really hard to keep a solid story in there. Mm-hmm. But I know that the Russo brothers, who wrote Winter Soldier, I know they're good writers, so I have confidence that they will keep it in there the same way they did with Winter Soldier. I do think it's going to feel a little bit more like Age of Ultron than Winter Soldier did, because Winter Soldier had a lot less characters that had a lot more to go with story-wise. Mm-hmm. But is it going to be a better movie than Age of Ultron? I think so.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Because even if it does have more characters, because it's got different writers, Joss Whedon did a better job with the first Avengers than he did with the second one. And I don't remember who wrote the second Avengers. Was it the same writer as the first one? Did he write it?
I thought Joss Whedon wrote it.
I think he did write it.
Yeah, he did write it.
I just thought his writing wasn't as good as it was for the first one. Like, the first one was a big spectacle. It was like the first time you saw all the superheroes together. So it didn't suffer from all the action because it had a lot more character development. And there's a lot of people who say, oh, well, he was just developing the characters for the second one. We don't need any character development. You always need more character development.
Yes.
No matter what movie it is. First, second, third. There was a ton of that in Captain America Winter Soldier. They delved more into his character and his personality. And Black Widow's personality, they delved 10 times more into hers. The only character development I really saw in Age of Ultron was Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And I liked the development they gave him. I just wish they'd given that to every member of the team. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they give some of the other members a little bit of character development, but yeah.
A little bit, not as much as him, though.
Yeah. And yeah, that's why like Spider-Man 2 is still one of the best superhero movies of all time.
Spider-Man 2, it's because it
was all about character development in that one.
It was all about Peter's struggles.
Yeah.
His struggles in life. What I really, really like. It's one of my favorite superheroes.
And that's what you need to have, and not just, obviously in superhero movies, but in any movie, you have to focus on the character and their character development. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something that's even more challenging for people who write superhero movies, because it's easy just to fall back on the basic story of the hero, the villain, powers.
That's how Age of Ultron struck me.
Right.
Villains, heroes, power.
And
bad guy.
You can't just rely on that, or otherwise the superhero genre is going to become oversaturated.
Yes, and that's the only reason I feel that Civil War won't be exactly like that is because it's the first part is Iron Man and Steve Rogers facing off with different opposing political views, which that's going to be great. But I have a feeling in the latter half, when they go to fight the main villain, it's kind of going to feel like that. It's going to be like, oh, everybody's got to go fight the main villain. But if they have more character development at the start, it won't bother me. I don't think it will be my favorite superhero film. I can't exactly say that yet, but I don't think it will be. I do like the standalone movies a lot better than the other ones because they're the standalone. They introduce the characters. I love character introductions. Mm-hmm. The first Iron Man was great. Ant-Man beat the first Iron Man for me, just barely though. Yeah. With that, Doctor Strange is going to be another unique one. And even with Batman vs Superman, I don't think that's going to be full of just tons of action. That's going to have a lot of political stuff too with it, because it's got a very political-ish storyline.
Right.
So I don't think it's going to be just full of action, which I like that. So yeah, and then Infinity War Part 1 and 2, those are going to be crazy. They're going to be long, nonstop action. Yeah. And by then, I don't know if it will bother me as much because they will have so many movies that they've introduced the characters. So it's like, all right, well, we're going in here. But then again, you got to think of those people. Maybe they've never seen another superhero film, and that will be the first one they see, which would be kind of weird, but maybe it's the case. So, they got to have some kind of development so people would know who they are.
And that's why it doesn't really bother me too much with like the Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, because to me those are like the war movies of each phase. Like the Avengers is the end of phase 1 in the MCU, and that's like the war movie where like the Battle of New York takes place, and it's more about the battle and stuff. While the solo films are more about developing the characters and stuff, which is why I guess Age of Ultron didn't bother me as much, is because it's more focused on the actual getting all the heroes together to fight a global catastrophe and stuff. So that's why I guess the Avengers movies don't bother me as much. I do have my issues with Age of Ultron. I feel like that the deleted scenes that they took out of it, they should have left in there.
Should have left in there and cut some other stuff.
Because the deleted scenes made it feel more whole. That's why I felt like the Age of Ultron was definitely rushed.
Yes.
And they should have expounded on some things a little more and stuff.
It will never be the Hobbit bad storytelling wise, where they just kind of rushed it. They felt like they rushed through them a lot, which didn't make them as, lovable and in depth as the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
I felt like they kind of rushed it, with everything else. And in Age of Ultron, there were tons of special effects, but those didn't seem rushed. It seemed more like the story was rushed.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there was a deleted scene with Thor when in the pool with the whole pool thing that explained it, and I liked that.
Yeah.
Like when I first watched the movie, I was like, "What?" When with that whole scene, and like in the deleted scene, minor spoilers. They show like the Infinity Stones. He sees all the Infinity Stones, and that explains what's going to happen with the Infinity Gauntlet, and I really liked that.
Yep.
I wish they had kept that in there.
They should have kept it in.
And one of my only other problems with character development was Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I didn't think their characters were as well developed as they could be.
Yep.
And so that's just one of the a few problems I did have with it. And I did like I said, I liked the first Avengers a lot better because they did develop the characters for the entire first half, and then the action was the last half. Whereas in Age of Ultron, it was nonstop action. There was just like bang, 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 bang.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the superhero genre is oversaturated at this moment. I feel like that there's still so many different storylines that they're going through right now and stuff, and it doesn't feel oversaturated to me. I feel like that a lot of the movies definitely are unnecessary and oversaturated and just too generic, but I think for the most part, the superhero genre as a whole isn't oversaturated. So that's what I think.
We would like to know what you think. Sound off in the comments below and let us know, do you think the superhero genre is oversaturated? Do you think it's just fine? Do you think it's going to become oversaturated? What do you think? We'd like to know.
And make sure that you share this video with your friends as well, and click that subscribe button as well.
And like it.
And like it. Like that video. Like it.
Like that video.
And we will see you next week.
We will see you next week. And remember, no matter whether you disagree or agree on certain subjects,
all geeks win.